terms to face the new normal. Work from home has become the new norm and a way of working as more and more corporates are extending work from home. No one is sure when the normalcy will return, but life and work have to continue to keep the wheels of the country's economy running and stimulate demand. All of us have to face this new normal and move forward bravely in this new world. Well, this new norm that we are going through and which will exist for quite some time now, uh, will it be an adversity or advantage? Only time will tell. So, to discuss what are the challenges one will face in the new normal, we have some distinguished industry leaders sharing their views under the topic moving forward in the new normal. Is this adversity and advantage? Let me quickly introduce our panelists for this webinar. Mr. Neil Pandya, Head of Media L'Oreal, who will be moderating our session today. A marketing professional with extensive experience in digital and traditional media strategy. He is currently managing traditional and digital media for large brands like Garnier, Maybelline, L'Oreal Paris, NYX, and other professional divisions. Anita Nair, Head of Customer Strategy and Relationships, Z5 India. In her current role, she is instrumental in building relationships that will help build the agency partner ecosystem for Z5 business. She has held several leadership roles in some of the leading organizations. Anushri Ghosh, leading digital strategy and media at ITC Limited, a marketer with varied experiences in managing and thinking about brands, both as a brand owner and a strategic planner. Sonia Singh, Director Growth and Strategy, Collection Digital Media. Sonia Singh is the founder and director for business strategy at Collection. She passionately drives business growth with dynamic team at Collection, which has grown to over 200 people in the last couple of years. Neil, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Bijoya and Ad Gully, firstly, to inviting all of us for today's panel. A very good afternoon to everyone. I am really excited today, guys, not because I'm moderating and I'm going to have an easier job just to ask questions and not to get answers from, but it's a panel which is about all leading women leaders in the industry, and I want to listen to all of them. So that's my excitement levels. So before we go to each of the panelists, I mean, for all the listeners, guys, in next 1 hour or so, we're going to cover topics from all the industries which are we part from. But in case you have any specific questions to any one of us, do drop it into the chat column or the Q&A column, and we'll try and address towards the end of it. So stay tuned for next 1 hour. It's going to be a power-packed conversation. Let me go to the panelists. As I mentioned earlier, I have 2 reasons specifically, guys, why I'm excited today. Reason 1 is obviously because of the panelist with whom I'm going to be. I mean, look at Anita, who has vast experience in the industry. And Anita, I'm going to take liberty to call you a veteran in the industry because you bring in a lot of experience from the agency side and Z5 as of today. Anushri brings in the digital and the marketing strategy from ITC and FMCG perspective. And Sonia is going to help us that, apart from FMCG and OTT, there are a lot of other clients and other stuff who are dealing with this entire pandemic. So we have covered our ground well. That's reason 1 I'm excited. Reason 2, guys, I'm excited because of the topic. I mean, most of us have attended webinars or spoken at webinars about pandemic being destructive or XYZ reason. The topic for today is adversity is an advantage. I mean, we have grown up from childhood. I'll agree. All of us will agree, listening to stuff that, tough times do not last long, but tough people generally last long. And at the same time, during adversities, there are a lot of opportunities. So I know we have tough people in the panel today who have seen a lot of opportunities in this adversity. So let's, without wasting time, let's go ahead and discuss today's topic. Anushri, I would like to start with you. Firstly, hello, good to see you after a long time. You're on mute, Anushri.
Hi, sorry.
No worries.
Hi, Neil.
Hi, Anushri. I always like to start the conversation with the FMCG people because I myself come from that. I'll keep it simple. I mean, let's start low. I mean, the pandemic has affected a lot of us, but, there is a saying that business needs to go as usual, or the continuity in business is really important. What are the steps which you would like to share, which under your leadership or under ITC's leadership together, what is ITC has taken steps to ensure that the business is going as usual?
So it's never as usual as, this was an unprecedented time, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I think, the thinking on the feet and as the topic kind of suggests that it's seeking opportunity in adversity. I mean, there were many such, pieces which were picked up, which were turned into opportunities actually. Right in the beginning when, a sudden lockdown, happened, and which kind of not just abruptly halted, the lives of consumers, but they also did the same for business owners, right? So suddenly e-commerce was shut, traditional trade was shut, which is really large for us. Suddenly modern trade was shut. Every possible channel of availability of our products or touch points, so to speak, were actually shut. But one of the things that we realized that at that point of time was the consumer is actually seeking products. And I think one of our largest products is essentially the essentials, which is the atas actually, that's pretty much, the bread of every possible Indian, I guess. So I think it almost felt like a duty for all of us at ITC to kind of really figure out ways and means to reach out to the consumer, make the product available to the consumer. So we started with focusing on the essentials to begin with, because right in the beginning, people started to kind of really get worried in terms of how do I kind of make do with whatever I have at home. And you would have seen that panic buying started to happen everywhere. There was a stock out, etc. So I think ITC was one of the first companies that launched this initiative called ITC Store on Wheels. Store on Wheels essentially was, if you have an ecosystem, so we also have a direct to consumer destination. Imagine if I kind of bring that to the consumer, at the doorstep of the consumer. So I think it was really kind of difficult in terms of permissions, etc. But since it was essentials in terms of, as commodity, we perhaps kind of sought and spoke to a lot of kind of authorities and regulatory bodies to kind of seek those permissions. And it was an organization initiative, which essentially kind of drove, we took a whole lot of trucks, we filled them out with the essentials stocks. We reached out to, housing societies wherever we could get permissions, and whether it's in, and at that point it was essentially orange, red zones. Now it's all about containment zones. So wherever it was allowed, wherever the permission was given to us, we actually tried and reached out to the consumer. So I think being proximal to the consumer was one of the key initiatives that we did. And then of course came in the strategic partnerships with, say, anybody who had feet on street, right? So whether it's a Domino's, whether it's Swiggy's of the world, we immediately had those, strategic deals kind of cracked, and we got cracking in terms of getting our products delivered to the consumer's doorstep. So I think that was something which was, and I wouldn't really call it just an opportunity. It was almost like coming together, working for a cause. And at the back end, imagine what would be happening in the manufacturing facilities. We also had to kind of turn around that kind of stock such that the, such that the demand was actually catered to. So I think it felt like a larger cause of sorts to begin with. And that, of course, was an opportunity, and hence, we could really kind of make ourselves available and be closer to the consumer. So I think that, to me, always kind of stands out right in the beginning of, the pandemic.
Trust me, I mean, that stands out for me as an individual to use ITC Store on Wheels as an individual. Forget about Marketer or NYZ. I have witnessed that. So that's interesting. And I'm sure that Store on Wheels is going to be one of the biggest marketing case study. We're going to look at it going forward, because that's how we are learning from each other, and everyone else is following on those lines.
Absolutely.
So that's interesting stuff. I think essential category FMCG. I mean, Anita, I'm going to ask you, content in lockdown when there was no new content was an essential. I mean, that's where a lot of OTT has benefited, because people were getting bored at house. There was no new content to watch it, and OTT really would have benefited after that. And we have seen that in numbers, and most of the numbers are showing that OTT viewership has increased. As an individual, ask me, I have subscribed to all the OTT guys. So I mean, that's a fact for me also. So, but there's a question, Anita. I mean, is this the growth or the sharp rise in the OTT viewership temporary, or it is there for long run now? What's your perspective from ZEE5 or OTT perspective?
Okay, firstly, thank you, Neil. And I think you're used to this audience because you deal with us at L'Oreal as well. Yeah. So, like Anushri was mentioning, essentials. I think what ITC has been talking about is essentials for the body. And what I think at Z5 we talk about is essentials for the mind, especially in this pandemic situation, because, with everybody locked in houses and everybody working from home, at least for the first 2 months, people didn't know what to do, what hit them. Nobody is used to sitting at home. Nobody is used to working as much at home because you're used to those long traffic hours, reaching your office or coming back and spending time in office, having your coffee breaks, face-to-face interactions, physical face-to-face interactions, at your offices and all that. So I think it took a toll on everybody. I mean, if I talk about myself also, as a consumer of all kinds of essentials and everything else that we consume, took a huge toll, because mentally everybody was saying, what the hell has hit us? It was very difficult to come to terms with the fact that for 1 month, not stepped out of my house, I've not walked down the stairs. I mean, what is it all going on, and of course, thanks to, the ITC wheels kind of a situation where you knew that you could actually, go buy those commodities or essentials for yourself. But what does one do with the, the essentials for the mind? And I think that is where platforms, and I'll talk in general about OTT platforms, and then of course come specifically to Z5 as to how we've gained. In general, everybody wanted entertainment. Everybody was then with the remote in their hands trying to figure out what is it that I want to watch. Did their kind of binging on television, and with no production happening, no new content coming on, after a point you were moving out of television. From an entertainment perspective, the only thing probably that you stayed with on television was checking out every day, if 22nd of March was actually just one day close down. Is it going to continue? Is it not going to continue? Am I allowed to go out? Am I at my restaurants open? Oh God, cinemas, kind of not there. How do I watch movies, or what do I do? How do I go shop? Yeah. So given all that, I think news was something that possibly, got those eyeballs, but it was largely from an information perspective. And if you ask me, giving us more stress than anything else, because you were like eagerly waiting on the edge of the chair to say what is going to come next. I mean, is Modi going to tell us to beat more thalis the next day, or how are things going to really take change? Given that even the production had stopped, I think the television channels, the broadcast media, had kind of exhausted all its content, and then what do you hold consumers or viewers with? You hold them with content, right? So given that situation, I think OTT platforms were the next best. It was just an automatic shift. So I think the situation just made that automatic shifts. You saw, as you rightfully said, Neil, yourself, you've subscribed to everything. I've also subscribed to everything. Yeah. And, wanting to again check. So one has done all of Netflix, one has done all of Amazon Prime. And now, again, after a couple of months, people were waiting for even more content, because how much more will you watch on Netflix? Suddenly, when I go through it, I'm saying, God, I've seen everything, or everything that I like, not really everything to be consumed there. And same with Amazon as well. Again, no new productions coming up. I think that is where the OTT platforms, the Indian OTT platforms, had a lot to gain, because there was a lot of new content coming in. And specifically, if I would talk about Z5, I think we've been one of the platforms who's kind of blessed with a lot of new content. And I think it's been general forward planning or proactive planning from the content team, that they've been constantly looking at what content to use, what content to share, and what content to acquire, so that the audiences are kept glued in. So that I think worked as a huge advantage for Z5, because constantly we were probably the only OTT platform which was doling in new content day in, day out, and even opened up our SVOD movies, etc., to the regular consumers. Everything which was behind a paywall also came up front. So because with the changing times, what do we all do? I mean, we all with our brands try and change consumer habits, right? So for us, we kind of, the environment has helped us change that consumer habit. We've moved from television broadcast to OTT platforms, and the subscriptions have gone up. The number of viewers every day, the video views which are there, the monthly users, average users, or your daily users have constantly seen a spiral. Yeah. And also the fact that another thing which has really interestingly emerged is the connected TV piece.
Yes.
Because now you have the television at home, you'd rather watch what you want to watch on a connected TV on the large screen than in the screen in the little phone in your hand. So again, loads of viewers coming in from the connected TV piece. So the interesting piece that ZEE5 also did was, actually we are on with all the television partners, so we've even taken the pains to go back to older models and get our app integrated in that. So to that extent, we've got a huge amount of viewers on connected TV. So my convoluted answer to your question is that I think it's here to stay. I don't think that I don't think things are going to open up so quickly. Yeah, even if they open up, there will be this little scare in everybody's mind, because everybody's being extra cautious. And I think this whole phenomena of us continuing to entertain the consumer has built in that consumer loyalty also, like the way it has with ITC, or like the way it has with any many other brands. I think that consumer loyalty is coming to say, this is a channel or a platform which continues to entertain you day in, day out. So I think it's here to stay.
I cannot agree more to that. I mean, apart from what you said, that is going to continue and the lockdown is going to continue and this will have, I also believe that someone rightly had said, it takes some 21 days to build a habit. And we are talking about a 5 to 6 months habit of watching OTT. I think it's a stronger habit which is built in. It's not going to move out so easily. So thanks for that. I mean, I'll go to Sonia. I mean, Sonia, you heard ITC wheels, store on the wheels, and how this OTT viewership is going to be there for long term. There are a lot of advertisers like myself, or even Anushri to that extent, or Anita, have moved from branding to performance. I mean, because there is a lot of ROI importance and all that thing. Being a part of a leading ad tech platform, do you really have started customizing your solutions to the advertisers? And if yes, what are those? We would love to listen to that.
Thank you for the question, Neil. We heard from Anita and Anushri how the businesses have been affected and how they have adopted to it. Bringing in the advertising business into the perspective, Neil, this business particularly is not like any other commerce, sales, or software revenue, because we don't have an idea on what is going to look like in a situation like this, right? So if the economy has taken a hit, the advertising industry has definitely taken a hit. And I would be particularly talking about, for example, the mobile app user acquisition business. The demand is actually becoming more and more performance centric, like you said, not just branding side. I'm sure branding is also seeing that part, but in many sectors, because we work with wide range of advertisers, right? So e-commerce, travel, food delivery, promotions. These are the advertisers who've actually seen a downturn. Few of them, like e-commerce, were growing organically. Few of them had their own supply chain management problems. But then, end of the day, we saw new partners and new advertisers like OTT, gaming, entertainment, and fitness and utility we never imagined, who actually stood to the benefit of this differential consumer mindset that we were seeing, right? And owing to this situation, of course, at an organization level also, we kind of leaned back on making a lot of changes. The first would be, because we are a platform-centric company, we have done lot of changes in improving our platforms. There were a lot of demand in tailor making the solution in terms of media buying from every vertical specific, which was, I would say, very generic earlier, but the focus has moved on very specific vertical and business specific media buying. On top of it, there is one more aspect that we were prominently seeing right now, is we need to be more flexible in adapting to the performance demand. You just mentioned about the performance matrices changing for both branding and performance. Yes, drastically. So our business model, our media buying capabilities, our pricing, everything has kind of changed to meet the requirement of the advertisers for last 3 to 6 months right now. Yeah, and this is not just from India point of view. I'm talking about also, we have a lot of international markets, especially tier 1 market and entire APAC. The trend has been same because the performance matrices have changed drastically.
Very interesting. I think I'm going to come back to you again on specifics of what solutions, because as an advertiser, I'm excited to listen to more, which is going to benefit me. I think Anushri also would love to listen to those stuff, and Anita also having the same. Anushri, I mean, you mentioned about store on wheels. That's a brilliant innovation which you guys did it on ground. But in these tough times, a lot of other brands have moved towards tech. I mean, look at webinars, how webinars have become so important because of the tech support. What are the kind of tech innovations or tech support ITC has introduced so that the consumers to whom they are talking becomes really a smooth interaction between them, or they are benefited from those perspectives? Do you like to share any of those tech innovations specifically?
So yeah, I mean, suddenly, brands have, I feel that a lot of brands have actually suddenly leapfrogged to adoption of a lot of technology-based solutions.
Yeah.
So whether it's, adoption of very, very strong AI-based platforms, which kind of translate, objectives to creatives to media. So I think that's something that perhaps if that was in the works earlier, it's been adopted at scale across brands. So internally, we have experimented quite a bit with the consumer research, which is brand tracks, so to speak, which are the backbone of FMCG companies, I guess. That has moved online, and these are all online panels, and this is becoming unprecedented in terms of how consumer researchers, and that to large scale, complicated consumer researchers, have actually moved online. So I think for us, that's a large shift. Apart from that, creative adaptation. So, I mean, usage of partners or tech partners, so to speak, which can enable, personalization at scale in terms of, creative adaptation, because agencies are also constrained in terms of providing their services. We have used them at scale. I don't know. I mean, the adoption was fairly, borderline last year, this time perhaps, but now it's kind of, it's kind of skyrocketed. Every single brand, irrespective of where they lie on the maturity curve, have adopted these solutions at scale. And another thing that I'm seeing, which is, adding value to a consumer's life. So whether it's in the form of chatbots, whether it's in the form of assistants, or whether it's in the form of valuable content, which then further drives some kind of commerce, or which is content-led commerce, as we call it. I think the importance of that has suddenly been established. There are no naysayers there that, content is, is a shoulder piece, and we will probably look at it once the brand kind of gains enough, awareness. I think those pieces have suddenly been leapfrogged. So there are no specific technology solutions, but I think at an overall level across the, marketing ecosystem of sorts, technology has been embraced wholeheartedly, and I think at scale, without shying away from, the incremental investments that one would need to make in terms of kind of driving, the agenda of tech. And the other piece, and these are all, of course, MarTech solutions. The other piece is also the prioritization of digital transformation. So most of Indian organizations are at a certain curve or somewhere on the curve when it comes to transformation, right? But I think that's become really the agenda of really senior leaders of, of FMCG, so to speak. I think it's the boardroom agenda for most of the organizations to kind of drive digital transformation. So I think that acceleration also kind of proves the point that we are all, as brand owners, are becoming more consumer in rather than brand out, so to speak. So I think, so that's pretty much where we are at.
So, I mean, I'm super excited. I'm going to come back again if time permits, or I'm going to take it offline on the stuff which you mentioned about, the consumer tracks, which you have taken it online version of that and all those. That's an innovation in itself. We never imagined a FMCG guy who used to do a lot of surveys on ground will move into something like a brand track, which is digitally proven. So I think that's exciting, Anushri. I mean, coming to Anita, I mean, somewhere. Sonia mentioned, and me and Anushri have witnessed it, that advertising budgets are dropping during the times of pandemic. I mean, and when you see this, I also said earlier that brands are moving from brand advertising to performance advertising, and there are a lot of overall advertising has reduced, and the pie has also reduced. In that particular pie, what's your say? There are clear some advantages, guys, like maybe e-commerce guys or someone like OTT. What's your perspective and how OTT as a platform winning, losing in this particular field? We clearly saw viewership is increased. Has that resulted also into advertising spends coming to you guys? That was the question.
Sure. So no two ways about the fact that advertising has gone down, and hence obviously the budgets have gone down, and the platforms on which the advertising was taking place obviously will get impacted because the spends have gone down. And this also goes for advertising agencies, because for them the bread and butter is really all to do with advertising per se. um, in 2008 2009, when that recession hit us, it is very similar. I'm much older than you guys, so I can remind you of that recession period there. And that was one time when brands had gotten used to working with shrunk budgets.
Yes.
And after that, that became a norm, so where the advertising industry was looking at growing at a much more faster and a higher pace, it actually kind of stabilized, because brands had gotten used to that particular kind of budget which was being spent. Very similar situation now. Of course, that time digital was not as pronounced as it is today, and was not part of our lives. Today digital is part of our lives. So what is happening is that yes, there are a lot of publishers who got impacted because of the cut in spends. But you will see, as Anushri was also mentioning, this whole fast pace and fast forward on the digital transformation for brands and organizations is what has led to at least a spike in the overall digital ecosystem spends. The entry barriers are low. So, you can almost run a 1 week campaign for 2 lakhs on some digital platforms vis-a-vis running just one spot on a Kapil Sharma. Just for example, no offense meant there. But the fact is that, that is where, again, you saw that efficiency piece coming in, and of course, with the advent of digital, with its growth, you knew that the reach was happening. There's been enough and more discussions on the reach of television versus the reach of digital, and various platforms, and how effective it is, what are the CPTs that both are working in, and so on and so forth. So given that fact that the impetus has gone to digital advertising, and brands have actually moved. So with a fraction of their overall budget, they would probably be able to sustain their presence and cater to their objectives during these times. Whether the objective is top of mind or whether it is awareness or whatever. I think the digital platforms at an overall level were able to cater to that at a much smaller budget. And if you take a cut of that, because OTT is a subset of the digital ecosystem, again here, because you were finding audiences there, as one said, that the viewers have obviously gone up, the numbers of viewers, the viewership has gone up, time spent has gone up. I mean, one did not see so much increase in long format binging. So long format binging is also starting to take place. So given that OTTs were a subset of that, the viewers was increasing, and finally, where are brands going? They're going after those consumers, right? So I think that is where the movement of advertising spends went on to OTTs. And then, of course, it was the job of the OTT platforms to cater to those audiences. For example, at ZEE5, we know that, we have a large amount of female viewership. So it's almost about 60%, 55 to 60% of our viewers are females, and to top that up, there is a huge, synergy, the kind of content that gets played, which is all about entertainment, Then we got in a lot of news channels, and then you could actually, replace the ads which were running on those news channels on television with digital ads. So that brought in a lot of male consumption on the channels as well. And then, like I mentioned earlier, connected TVs, of course, there. So I think, the OTT platforms, with the kind of content they are rolling out in the marketplace and the kind of audiences that they're attracting, are really complementary to what audiences the brands want to cater to. And which is why I think there's valid reason enough for brands to move their advertising to OTTs, because those, in today's day and age, when everything is kind of people are looking at advantage, disadvantage, diversity, opportunity, whatever. So you'll know what my closing remarks will be, Neil. Yeah. So I think that is where it's moving. So yes, we've got a decent pie, and thanks to the viewership and the audiences that we are able to provide to the brands, as per their requirement.
I think I'm excited that you've got decent pie on those front, and that brings me to the next question to Sonia, because there are a lot of myths with a lot of advertisers might be having it. The out of the Anita rightly said that the digital pie is increasing, and within that digital pie, lot of advertisers are finishing up their entire capacity to spend within two or three bigger platforms maximum. But they're not going beyond that, and that's why one of the reason why Anita and OTT platform guys might have difficulties to bring in more revenues from that perspective. I think I'm talking on your behalf, Anita. Please accept
I have
that.
two of my clients on this panel, so you guys better.
Yeah. So having said that, Sonia, I think have you noticed that being an ad tech platform who caters to a variety of advertisers, have you noticed that during these times where advertising on digital is increasing, advertisers are moving outside the top 2-3 guy players, and what's your take on the same?
Neil, in my opinion, and after hearing Anushri, I may actually land up calling digital marketing a big piece of pizza, okay, with a lot of pies in it. And mobile advertising in itself is one of the bigger pies in that. We have been successful in building our niche in this particular domain where we deal with mobile app user acquisition. But now, if I talk about the nuances of the ad tech industry alone, the pricing, promotion, packaging, we are seeing a demand partners kind of modifying their strategies on the go almost every day. And of course, social distancing being the new norm, it places a unique spotlight on our industry right now, Neil, because digital marketing has become a mainstream. Each brand is adapting differently to consumer needs and sentiments. And I'm sure it's visible. I'm sure we have two big brands here on the platform right now. Everybody is adjusting to the media plans and bending towards digital advertising. And that kind of calls in for the performance matrices, not just at an industry level, but also at an organization level to be recalibrated. Yeah, and starting from, you were asking about if there is a switch, if advertisers are making an easy switch. I would say I have seen that they are closely and critically evaluating all the MMP platforms, basically the mobile measurement partners, the tech platforms, and every performance delivery partner or an ad delivery partners, because they're asking for a bang for every buck they are making right now, because these are not easy times, and everybody is ready to make that easy switch if the expectations are not met. That means, and I think I'm agreeing to that as well, because everybody is trying to ride the wave and adapt to the new normal, and advertisers should not be left out in that entire piece, right? So for us, thankfully, we were able to notice that quite early, and our partners have really stood up. We have kind of connected at a level that we also participated with our advertisers to replan their user acquisition strategies. And we have kind of evolved while our advertisers evolved their marketing strategies as well. And we stayed in the game, of course.
I think Anita, positive signs. I mean, she's talking on a point of a lot of other advertisers apart from myself and Anushri in this. Anushri, I mean, I want to ask, I want to switch gears to more work from home kind of a questions, because we have had enough marketing. Let's switch that. But before I go to that question to you, I just want a 30-second of feedback from you. As an advertiser, do you see this switch going to more platforms than consolidating into only 2 to 3 things?
So it's a mixed bag actually, but you're right. As digital marketers, we have seen concentration of spends on the proven platforms, because you really want to have your money work hard and perform, so that there is short success in whatever money that you're spending. But that being said, because performance is not really now getting removed from brand building, to be honest, so it's becoming like an adjunct to brand building. So that's why I think chasing consumer journeys, or chasing wherever the consumer is also becoming extremely crucial. So while, it's always like that 70-20-10 thing, right? 70% of your monies are always going to go in the short proven platforms. But yes, there is room for experimenting, learning, creating your own benchmarks, and then arriving at a strategy which is scalable, and which is more accountable and drives the consumers to say a touch point of purchase or brand experience. So I think that is happening.
Superb. I mean, I'm glad you said 70-20-10 because I believe in that concept dramatically well. But having said, let's switch gears for like next question from a lot of marketing and advertising and digital stuff to something called work from home. I mean, everyone has spoken about work from home everywhere. I mean, there are a set of audience who say that it is brilliant, is efficient, I like it, I want to ensure that it goes forward as forward we are working. There are a set of audience who believe that, yaar, nahi, my life balance, work-life balance is affected. I'm not able to do stuff. I would like to take point of view from each one of you. I'll start with Anushri because I was concluding the previous question to you. Anushri, what's your take on the same?
I think work from home is a very, very effective and efficient way to work. Not just from a productivity perspective, but I think it opens up a lot more possibilities, whether it's newer stakeholders, whether it's talent, whether it's partners. The world is your oyster. You can actually work with partners based out of different parts of the world, not just your country. You can work with talent based out of different parts of the world, not just your country. So I think it's opened up a new horizon when it comes to marketers or any other sphere, so to speak. So I feel this remote working, I don't even want to call it work from home. Work from home essentially pushed us to adopt this, remote way of working because we had no other choice. But I think this is a new way of working which has been introduced to the world thanks to the situation that we were faced with. I feel that it's brought us, it's given much more respect to the other person's time. There is more productivity, there is more discipline. I feel even hierarchical layers have actually vanished to a large extent, because the entire team, right from C-level folks, are on the call, and you can really get closures on things which otherwise in the physical world would take multiple iterations. So I feel it's a great way to kind of work. Although, again, coming back to mental health for people, I think that's a different conversation because you're really kind of stuck in one place. So that is perhaps a little bit of a downside to this work from home situation. But I feel, let's call it remote working. I think that's a large horizon. And if it is adopted at scale, I think possibilities are immense.
Yeah, I take back work from home and I go to Anita. Anita, how's remote working for you? I mean, how's it beneficial? Are you tired? Which side of the actual game you are? What do you prefer?
I think I'm on both sides of the game because I'm a human being, right? And to me, efficiency is important, productivity is important. So is networking and talking to people and getting connected with people. And maybe I'm a little old school because, there's the saying to say a deal is best struck when you're face to face, because there is a lot that you can do when you are talking to a person, face to face, physically face to face, and where, you can gauge the, from the actions of the person and the body language as to what should be your next strategy and what should be the next punt that you should be taking at that person. So like I said, there are advantages and disadvantages to both. Like it's working from home has allowed me to do a lot that I never used to do. For example, reading books and listening to music. That is something that I was really missing out because, you leave home at 8 and there's no time to come back home given the traffic, etc. So I think for many people, and you saw those posts of cooking and yoga and fitness and all that coming up. So people are becoming far more, including me, far more health conscious. Yeah. And that is something that is required, and specifically in the marketing and the advertising arena that we work in, where there are really no norms, right or wrong norms to that extent. And of course, like I said, there is nothing better than a physical interaction with people. But yes, you will have to use both of them to your advantage. I think the moot point is that. So like two sides of a coin, really.
Point taken. I completely agree. For me, it's like 9 days out of 7 days a week, 5 days, I feel it's really efficient. 2 days, I'm like, no, I need to go back to the lives. I think I agree with you somewhat that I'm on both the sides along with you. Sonia, I mean, you might be, as Anita mentioned somewhere, a lot of times you need face-to-face interaction, physical face-to-face interaction to close a deal. I'm sure you would have closed hundreds of deals with a lot of customer clients in this period. Is that different, or how working remotely is working for you?
Neil, of course, I mean, this topic is kind of very much related to, the success rate that we're seeing right now. But just talking about the work from home scenario right now, it's one debate that keeps rolling in my mind right now, whether this is a blessing in disguise or it's a curse unleashed. Because last few months, apart from upscaling the business and of course the sales and growth, a larger part of my time have actually gone into understanding from the employees and partners perspective on how the social isolation, the economic uncertainty, your work from home burnout, and the virus itself has kind of affected everybody drastically. And I believe that even if we are trying to fill that void, of being in this free world that it looks like, with baking, with virtual birthday celebration and workout sessions online that Anushi was talking about, I think I can still feel and I hear and I observe that this new normal, in fact, hasn't been easy for many people, right? And it's not just at a personal side, at an organization level. We kind of tried understanding how embracing this entire situation with a flexible mindset will help us not just today, but to bring a more stronger organization. We can be more innovative in times like this and inspire the entire organization to come through this. So our work life have kind of adapted very swiftly. And I tell it to a lot of people, every day has become a new day. It's day one for us, right? And on the same lines, ensuring the physical and not just physical, the mental well-being of people, reskilling them to kind of, be on their toes. It is in demand and we all have to kind of meet up with that. So we were talking about this, Neil, and my message to you was that, right? It is actually a roller coaster ride right now with boundaries of work and home seem to merging into one. But what I have realized is as human, we are actually gifted to adapt. And apart from business and home, at a personal side, me, my friends, the people I know have also kind of kept themselves engaged in social work projects. So that has kept us busier as well, but then more contented. The point I'm trying to make here is, the work-life balance is not very elusive concept after all. It's difficult, it's pressuring, but it is possible. So if we take out time from a busy schedule just to pursue what makes us happy, we will be more satisfied end of the day to do things in a more better and energetic way. And like Anushi said, how unachievable it may sound, Neil, right now, we are all trying to make our organizations more humane, and that too from behind a computer. I think you will agree to that.
I agree to all of these things. I was expecting more lighter answers like me. I would have said that work from home.
Women.
I was, because I thought let's go more lighter version, but I got very serious and very nice answers from all of you guys. But yeah, so I think we have 15 minutes more. I will just drop one question before we jump into the questions from the audience, and we can keep it crisp or detailed on your perspective. I mean, this is again a common question to all of you guys. I mean, it's again an individual and a marketeer's point perspective that we have observed lot of consumer trends changing. I mean, there was a playbook earlier about normal times, but there is no playbook or a marketing book for such times, and consumers are changing their behavior dramatically. So according to each one of you, what are the top 3 trends you have observed, and how has that become a beneficial or disadvantage to in your respective industries? Anushri, if I have to again go back to you first.
Top 3 consumer trends?
Yeah, consumer behaviors which have changed and which have...
So I think from a FMCG perspective, I think 2 things have happened. And I think we spoke about it also as we were speaking, is this shift of consumer time spent from a one-to-many kind of a device, which was the otherwise traditional model of television, to a more many-to-many kind of a device, which is more on demand. So I think there is a little bit of it's like a lot of people suddenly got the taste of this on-demand thing. So which I feel, perhaps is there to stay. And I have seen in terms of, the numbers that you see, OTTs perhaps will see a large amount of time spent. And I think that shift from television to OTT, perhaps, the journey has begun. So that's what it looks like right now in terms of the shift in consumer behavior or shift in content consumption, because you can do whatever you feel like whenever you feel like. So this non-appointment based on demand kind of a thing is something that seems to be a trend that's going to kind of be here to stay. The other is whether it's a direct to consumer or e-commerce. I think e-commerce perhaps will see its hockey stick effect, and it is kind of witnessing one or as we go. E-commerce for especially for FMCG or groceries, so to speak. I think that's going to rise drastically, and it has risen, and it is on its way up. Just like if you remember, after demonetization, you saw online wallets became like a norm. I think grocery deliveries on, and this
Exactly.
online payments has become a little bit of a new shift or a norm. And the third piece is agility of marketers to adapt to what the consumer is actually looking for. So whether it's consumer chatter based product formulation, coming up with a product formulation which is based on consumer demand, and you would see immunity variants all over the place today across FMCG or other brands as well. Or whether it's packaging, which essentially requires safe packaging or entering. For us, I think at ITC we actually kind of launched. Actually, Savlon launched some 5 or 6 products in the period of the first 2 months, simply because that's where the consumer was actually looking at. And if you just look at the Google searches or consumer chatter that's happening, I think these are essential needs which can kind of be translated into product or propositions or variant ideas. So I think that agility of translating what the consumer is looking for to product propositions, media, of course, but and even marketing campaigns, I think that's really something that I have noticed marketers actually take up. So I think these are 3 shifts that I've seen tangibly being adopted across a lot of organizations. And these are, of course, consumer-centric shifts.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there will be multiple of them, which will be common for a lot of us also. Anita, I mean, Anushri mentioned one of them, which was about personal shift to OTT viewing and being a part of these entire OTT fraternity. What are the 3 shifts as a consumer viewing habits you have observed, and that brings you more disadvantage or advantage looking forward from that overall industry? What's your point of view on that?
Actually, I'll do very much to what Anushri's pointed out. I mean, we've got more viewership. The viewership is kind of going up. I think the number of viewers, number of subscriptions, and the time spent with the kind of content that is happening on the OTT platforms are the things going for the OTT platforms. And once you have the things going for your consumers, the consumers will see an automatic shift onto that platform. But having said this, while Anushri will give a perspective, and I'm sure has given a perspective, and Sonia will give her tech perspective, I'm just going to do a slightly lighter perspective where I'm saying flexibility, adaptability, and agility. These are the 3 major shifts in consumer behaviors. We're getting to be more flexible. We are starting to get, value our lives a little more. Do I really need this? I mean, do I need those 5 shopping bags at the end of the week? Can I do with 2? Kind of a thing where I think people have started to value life more and say, God, if this is the situation, where will I carry my bag, the LV bag, which I don't own, but whoever owns, where will that person carry that bag to, because this is how the situation is. So we're getting far more flexible in terms of what we want and what we should have. We are adapting ourselves. Okay. So whether it is a work from home situation, whether it is a OTT viewing situation, whether it is a performance oriented solution, everybody is, and I'm talking both for, personals and organizations. We are starting to adapt. And the other thing is that things have changed at such a fast pace that if we are not agile as individuals or as organizations, then we kind of lose it. So I think these 3 are, to me, the major consumer shifts that are happening.
I think very well summed up. I mean, on flexibility, adaptability, and all those things, I think most of the other consumer behavior will fall apart on that. I mean, coming to Sonia, do you see any specific sharp consumer segments changes among various advertisers you have been dealing with? And has that benefited you as an organization, or the advertiser has been benefited to the advertiser?
Of course, Neil, owing to the growing COVID situation that we have right now, the demand and engagement for e-commerce, utility, education, and in fact, a lot of app-based services, which have actually made life contactless, I've seen it growing drastically, and I'm sure you have also seen that. Now, these are the same apps which sounded like a luxury from a mobile phone earlier, have become essential, right? And in fact, the players like entertainment, OTT, music, and chat are, I feel, and Anushri was in fact highlighting that, can be counted in essentials as well, because we are talking about mental burnout and staying in touch with the world, which is a necessity and the need of the hour as well. There are players, for example, fitness, education, chat, all these advertisers have kind of tripled their budgets because overall digital subscription revenues have gone up, because there is a change in the habit formation as well. So the current period, I mean, people are looking at free period of extension because people are looking for free services more, lowering the prices in terms of the packaging of the product, and eventually driving a lot of subscription based revenue is the kind of consumer led behavior and decision making that is coming out of the advertiser side. We have all seen the new market entrance in chat and social apps, and I'm sure you know, and you must have read about this, that the engagement of these apps were extremely poor just few months back, right? And currently I'm seeing the expectation on these apps has gone, in fact, doubled, like 40 to 50%. And that is also, I'm taking on a lower side, is the level of retention and engagement that is coming out from chat and social apps right now. And, quite obvious, this is from the consumer behavior, but from considering the advertiser side of the business, the situation from April to May was when the lockdown started. Most of the businesses also pulled out the budget thinking that they didn't know what's going to happen. And suddenly the consumer business went up. And I think there was no better time when the level of media that's been consumed right now has actually led to skyrocketing numbers in internet consumption right now. And we as humans have never consumed so much of media than this, right? And I'm saying this because, advertisers always have a choice in terms of, spending on radio or print or outdoor, but because they're looking at measurable results on their ad spends, the digital focus will be much higher. And the current change in consumer behavior is leading to these kind of decisions right now.
I mean, you summed up well. I think you, from a perspective, I think I have a stark consumer behavior, which I noticed at a personal life, which was about my parents. I never imagined that 65-year-old plus people will have a bank account on their phone, operate on the phone, and those stuff. I mean, we all agreed that this has accelerated a lot of stuff. Online payment was something we really established among younger generation, but it has gone beyond that also. I mean, elderly people have started adopting the new ways of living and those stuff. So these were some of the changes. I think I think I'll leave it to Bijoya. Bijoya, are there any questions you want to take it forward, or you want me to read from that perspective? Are there any questions? One sec. Are you there, Bijoya?
Yeah.
So there are questions.
Yes, there are questions. There is one question which we thought, you thought you will take it up, but I guess there's a question that has come there. What are the implications of GDP degrowth of 23.9% for your industry? This is what we were discussing yesterday. It's come.
Yes, I think it's an interesting one. I mean, I was planning to put it into the panel also, but I think it has come out through question answers also. I think anyone has a perspective. Anita, you want to take a call, or Anushri, anyone you want to pick it up?
Yeah, I mean, I think like we were discussing this yesterday as well. I mean, what did one expect the GDP to do? Skyrocket? No, we didn't, right? I mean, it's a given, right? It's a no-brainer to say that the GDP would come down. Yes, it's been far higher than many other countries, but UK slightly short of India in terms of the way the GDP has dropped. I think the minimal impact has probably also happened in countries like maybe a US and who were economically far more robust as compared to India as a country. So it was a given. There is nothing new that we are hearing. I think it is very important to kind of take these things to the audiences or to the people at large in the country to say, yes, while the GDP is dropping, you're also talking about increase in manufacturing. I mean, in the same breath, in that same chart on the first page of the newspaper, there was also an up on agriculture. There was also a very little negative on manufacturing because things have started to come back. I think the results of the GDP have come now. So we are all feeling it. It's nothing that we did not know. To my mind, I think let's just move. We need to move ahead with positivity because we have to fight it. We don't have a choice. You either sulk, or you kind of try and fight this out and move on with it. I think the best thing to do is move ahead. And with the festive coming in, I think that slight amount of brand opening their strings, brands opening their strings, trying to advertise. IPL is happening. We're looking forward to those 7:30 p.m. in the evening. Advertisers like Dream 11 are taking up, even during these times, 220 crore branding with IPL. So I think there are signs of positivity that are happening. And with the festive, this general, your own feeling in festives just goes up. Your positive quotient goes up. So I think let's just move with that positive quotient, and this too shall pass, to my mind. I mean, we have to treat it as an opportunity and not as an adversity. I think the better we do that, the faster we will grow and fight this.
I think
I agree, actually.
I agree too. I mean,
it's we were already in a stage before we entered into the lockdown. I think we were already in a slowdown. So I think strategies were actually getting devised to combat slowdown and how do you kind of generate more demand. So it's kind of a continuation of what was already happening. So I think what is essentially going to kind of happen is purse strings, while, yeah, of course, there are many impact properties and festive time is coming in, but I think it's for marketers, I think it's going to be a time to be agile as well as judicious. So it's go as you learn and create proofs of concepts and deploy new things, but in a judicious manner. So I think that's going to be, I don't think anything is going to drastically change, so to speak, from what was happening before we went into the lockdown, to be honest. But yes, the next quarter is really, really important. So that's somewhere very critical strategic thinking from FMCG leaders, etc., is essentially going to kind of come in. But yeah, times are going to be a little tougher than what we have seen in the past.
There's a question. There's a question for Anita here. One second. We have seen a lot of players forcibly pivot to producing hand sanitizer. Sorry, this is not for Anita. In a crisis, there is always an opportunity. What should brands do to leverage this opportunity, and any specific directions that should follow to engage the audiences?
I think we all mentioned it together.
Yeah, we all mentioned a lot in the panel.
There's an advantage there. And I think the more the brands use the situation to their advantage, the better it is going to be for them. And I think the strategy varies from brand to brand. It varies from category to category, depending on what their objective is. But I think very importantly, and I think Dhirubhai Ambani said that, and look at where Mukesh Ambani is today, that in every adversity, there is an opportunity. So I think, I personally am taking that too literally. And I think there is really an opportunity, and we just need to devise our own, brands need to devise their own ways of really doing what they think is best for their category. Adaptability.
Yeah. I think all of us answered somewhere or other, Bijoya, that particular question.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Another question. Once the lockdown is over, will the content consumption happen as per your predictions?
I think she answered that also.
I think we answered that in the beginning.
I think most of
I think we answered that also. I think, Bijoya, we have only 1 minute left. So I will just take a vote from all of them. From a perspective, is adversity is an advantage or a disadvantage? What's your respective vote if you want to conclude the session from that perspective? I mean, Anushri, whoever wants to start. Anita, you want to start?
Advantage for sure.
Advantage for sure.
Advantage for sure.
And
Sonia,
I feel, nothing sparks innovation like a crisis time.
Absolutely.
So definitely an advantage. And the way my industry has bounced back, I guess definitely an advantage in adversity for us.
Women are far more positive, Neil.
I agree. I am with you guys. I am nowhere denying the fact. It's as I rightly started the webinar with, tough times don't last for long, but tough people do. And the panel rightly proved me correct in the entire last 1 hour's discussion. I think it's an advantage for all of us, and we have started looking at more from a positive perspective and ensuring to bring in the best for the respective organization. I think that's about it. I had an amazing time with all of you guys. I mean, Bijoya. Yeah.
Same
Thank
here.
you so much,
Thank you
Neil.
so much.
Thank you for moderating it so beautifully. Yeah, thanks.
Fabulous.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Vijaya and team.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Neil, special thanks to you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.